Right now, you probably showered today, maybe used deodorant, maybe twice. You didn't think about it. It's just what people do. But for almost all of human history, there was no shower, no deodorant, no running water. So, what did people smell like? And what did they actually do about it? The answer is stranger, more creative, and more human than you'd expect. Let's start with the obvious question. Did ancient humans even care about body odor? Yes, absolutely. Across every culture, in every era, humans have tried to smell better. The desire to control body odor is not modern, it is ancient, universal, deeply human. What changed is how people did it. First, where does body odor actually come from? Not sweat itself. Sweat is mostly water and salt. It's almost odorless. The smell comes from bacteria that live on your skin. When they break down the compounds in sweat, particularly in your armpits and feet, they produce the molecules that create that sharp, sour, distinctive smell. Ancient people didn't know about bacteria, but they understood that smell came from the body, and they attacked it from every angle they could. Let's go back 5,000 years. Ancient Egypt, one of the earliest civilizations, and one of the most obsessed with personal hygiene and smell. Egyptian priests bathed twice a day and twice a night, 4 times in 24 hours, required by religious law. They believed physical cleanliness was connected to spiritual purity. But ordinary Egyptians also bathed frequently, not in private bathrooms, those didn't exist. In the Nile, in communal basins, in water poured over the body from clay jugs. After bathing, Egyptians applied oils, scented oils made from plants, castor, sesame, moringa, mixed with herbs and flowers, applied to the skin to lock in moisture and leave a pleasant smell. This wasn't luxury, this was standard hygiene, both men and women, rich and poor. Archaeologists have found oil jars in tombs, in homes, in temples. Scented oil was so fundamental to Egyptian life that it was included in workers' wages at the pyramids, paid in oil, grain, and beer. But Egypt also had something even more interesting, one of the earliest known deodorant recipes, written on papyrus, over 4,000 years old. The recipe called for ground carob, mixed with ostrich egg, mixed with animal fat, applied to the armpits. Did it work? Probably not perfectly. But carob is mildly antibacterial, and fat creates a coating on the skin that slows bacterial growth. They were targeting the right thing. They just didn't have a name for it yet. Now move east. Ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, Sumerians and Babylonians left thousands of clay tablets. Many of them deal with medicine, hygiene, and scent. They used cedar oil, pine resin, cypress, all of which are antimicrobial. They also used something called nard, a plant extract still used in perfumery today. Wealthy Mesopotamians applied scented oils before every important social event. Appearing without a pleasant smell was considered disrespectful, like showing up today without brushing your teeth. Now, Greece. Ancient Greece had a complex relationship with body odor. Greek athletes competed completely naked, and after competing, they didn't shower. They scraped sweat and dirt off their skin using a curved metal tool called a strigil, then applied oil. This was standard, done by slaves in wealthy households, or by the athletes themselves. Greek gymnasia had bathing rooms. Oil was provided. The smell of fresh oil on skin was considered attractive, a sign of health and youth. But Greek philosophers also warned against over-perfuming. Socrates reportedly said that the best smell for a man was no smell at all, or the smell of honest work. There was a class dimension here. Working men smelled of sweat and labor. Aristocrats smelled of imported perfume from Persia and Arabia. Both groups looked down on each other for it. Body odor, even in ancient Greece, was political. Now, Rome. The Romans built an entire civilization around public bathing. The thermae, the Roman bathhouse, was one of the most important buildings in any Roman city, larger than most modern sports complexes. The baths of Caracalla in Rome could hold 1,600 bathers at once. Romans bathed daily, sometimes multiple times a day. The bathhouse was free or nearly free, open to all social classes. You went to the baths not just to clean your body out, but to socialize, do business, meet politicians, hear gossip. Inside the bathhouse, the process was elaborate. First, the changing room, then the cold pool, then the warm room, then the hot steam room, then the strigil again, scrape the skin clean, then oil applied all over. Romans used olive oil infused with flowers and herbs, lavender, rose, myrtle, saffron. After the oil, a final rinse. Then you dressed and left, smelling like a garden. But Romans also had something closer to modern deodorant. Alum, a mineral salt, potassium aluminium sulfate, applied directly to the armpit, creates an acidic environment on the skin. Inhibits bacterial growth. Sound familiar? It should. Modern natural deodorants often use alum as the active ingredient. The Romans were using it 2,000 years ago. Alum was sold in markets across the Roman Empire, a common, inexpensive product. Everyone knew what it was for. Now let's go to ancient India. The subcontinent had a sophisticated tradition of hygiene written into religious texts. The Arthashastra described official standards for public cleanliness. Ayurvedic medicine prescribed daily bathing, tongue scraping, oil pulling, and the use of herbal pastes on the body. Neem was a key ingredient, still used today, powerfully antibacterial, applied to the skin as a paste or leaves boiled in bathing water. Sandalwood was also fundamental, ground into a paste, applied to the chest, neck, and armpits. Its scent lasts hours. And sandalwood oil has been shown to have antibacterial properties. China. Ancient China had its own tradition. Texts from the Han Dynasty describe bathing schedules, hair washing routines, and the use of fragrant herbs. Chrysanthemum, wormwood, and calamus were boiled and added to bath water. Not only for cleanliness, but because the herbs were believed to repel disease and purify the spirit. Wealthy Chinese used a substance called fragrant powder, ground herbs mixed with rice flour, applied to the body after bathing. An early form of scented talcum powder. Now, medieval Europe, where things get complicated. There's a popular myth that medieval people never bathed, that they smelled terrible and didn't care. This is largely false. Medieval people bathed regularly. Public bathhouses operated in most European cities throughout the Middle Ages. Bathing on Saturday before Sunday church was common practice. The problem wasn't unwillingness, it was infrastructure. And later, fear. In the 14th century, the Black Death arrived in Europe, and with it, a theory. Physicians believed that hot water opened the pores of the skin, and open pores let in disease. Therefore, bathing was dangerous. This belief spread rapidly. Bathing declined dramatically, especially among the wealthy. The poor kept bathing in rivers and wells because they had no choice. Ironically, they may have been healthier. The wealthy began substituting washing with heavy perfume and with linen. White linen undergarments became the hygiene technology of the medieval upper class. The idea: linen absorbs sweat and oils from the skin. You change the linen cleans you. The more often you changed your linen, the cleaner you were. Clean white linen was a status symbol. You showed your clean shirt cuff to demonstrate wealth and hygiene. This is why, for centuries, European aristocrats smelled of perfume. Heavy, floral, musky, layered over a base of unwashed skin and clean linen. It was a different approach to the same problem. Not wrong by their logic, just different. Now, step back, see the whole picture. Every civilization in history, Egypt, Rome, Greece, India, China, developed their own system for managing body odor. Different tools, different priorities, different definitions of clean, but always a system. Always an effort. because this is something uniquely human. We are aware of how we smell to others. We care about what that signals. We invest enormous energy in managing it. The next time you reach for your deodorant in the morning, remember, you are doing something humans have done for 5,000 years. The formula changed. The ingredients changed. The technology changed. But the instinct, completely unchanged. We have always wanted to smell better. We have always tried, and we always will.